Welcome to PodCacher.
Hey, I'm Sunny.
And I'm Sandy.
From sunny San Diego, California.
Welcome to PodCacher.
This show is packed with geocaching goodness, news, tips and tricks, and tools of the trade.
Also, interviews, geocaching events, and stories from around the world.
You can find show notes with links mentioned on the show and a lot more geocaching goodies at PodCacher.com. So with that, let's get on with the show. Hello there and welcome to another PodCacher podcast.
We are glad you're here with us for show 901 for March 24th, 2025.
That's right, show 901. We've surpassed
We've gone over the hump of the 900.
And no matter where you are in this world, hopefully you had some time this last week to do a little geocaching with friends, family, or complete strangers.
And we got out to find some treasure last Monday.
Treasure.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the news section.
Yeah, that was fun.
And Sean and I went to SeaWorld on Saturday for Mother Sunday.
Yeah.
I actually got a free pass that they were giving out for teachers and staff at schools, which is kind of cool. And then a free guest pass, so I took Sean along for the day.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've been at SeaWorld. Long ago, we had annual passes. Sean was a little kid. We used to take him to the little Sesame Street area. Yeah. Oh, I remember that. But it's been a while. And you said it's changed a bit, huh?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's a lot of things are different, but it was a good time.
And you might be able to tell if you listen very carefully, but we're still all recovering from colds.
And coughs.
Nothing severe, but it's just one of those annoying coughing headache things going around. I guess we're not out of the cold and flu season yet.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, but that didn't stop us from getting some treasure, which we'll talk about later. Even with all that sickness, cold going on, we do have a great show planned for you today. We have some stories of working with and giving back to the local community,
including some audio from local cacher Chet 13 on 2 big local projects he's working on.
Yep. Also some great ideas for an intro to geocaching class from Julieplay the piano.
Feedback on reusing dormant geocaching usernames and much more.
All right. First up, treasures are here in the news.
Geocaching and GPS news.
First up in geocaching and GPS news, treasures are here. Plus 2 new collections in April.
Yes, as you probably know, treasures were released on Monday, March 17th. And so that evening, we headed out for an evening walk on a loop that we knew would give us 12 traditional caches.
Yeah, that's what you look for.
And you can collect treasure by finding and logging caches that meet specific criteria that's set by HQ. So the first collection that came out...
We got to explain that, what a collection is.
Well, each individual item that you find, a virtual item, they call a treasure, and then those treasures go together into collections. And the collection that they started out with is called Geocaching Origins.
There you go. Okay.
And you can collect the treasures in that collection by finding and logging traditional caches. So that was the criteria for the first one.
On this one, just traditional.
So it had to be traditional caches.
Okay.
And so every time we logged a traditional cache on our walk, we saw this new treasure appear in our collection. And what it seems like is they've made it easy to begin with, right? So every cache you find that meets its criteria, that's a traditional, gives you the treasure.
Yeah. And at least the graphics that we saw while we were doing it, it looked like the collection was 2 shelves, and then there were blank spots that you knew something would fit. Like something was going to be there.
Right. It looks like a bookcase. And with little...
A bookcase,
Right. With little blank spots.
Yeah. And I think... Wait, did this one have 5?
Right? This one had 4.
Oh, 4. Okay. So they're like little ghost shapes on them at first. And then when you find one, well, first you see what it is, and then it fills up that thing on the bookshelf.
Right.
Yeah.
And for this first one anyway, every time we found a cache, it was a different treasure. Like it knew
every single time.
It knew what we already had, right?
Right.
And so it gave us a different one.
Right.
And this first collection had the treasures were an original stash bucket, a satellite, a GPS unit, and the blue switch.
Yeah. Now, and the reason Sandy's bringing up that it seemed to have known what we already had is because when we spoke to Brian, he said it's possible that you'll get a duplicate. Maybe not in this particular collection, but it's possible you get a duplicate. So it's kind of like you're rolling the dice. You open up, you meet the criteria and you get the same thing again.
And you see the treasures in their collection, but then there's another tab that you can click on that just shows all your treasures. Oh. So eventually you'll be able to see all of them. And if you have more than one, say, of a bucket or whatever, it'll show you how many you have.
How many buckets you have or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
And then once you finish that first collection, the second collection is unlocked. So you can't do that until you do the first one.
Right.
And the second one is called Celebrating 25 Years. And it says you can collect these treasures by finding and logging any type of geocache, but it has to have a difficulty rating of 1.5 or lower.
Okay.
So it's not limited to traditional anymore, but it is limited to 1.5 or lower. So easy caches.
Okay.
And then if you complete that Celebrating 25 Years collection, you'll get a souvenir.
On this one?
On this particular
like that
one.
First one we did, Geocaching Origins, we didn't get a souvenir.
No. And not every, I think Brian said not every collection will have a souvenir.
Okay.
But some of them will. And so far on that one, we've collected a piece of cake.
A piece of cake.
So we've got one. And in this case, there's 5. And the other treasures are going to be, it looks like balloons, a party hat, a noisemaker, and that 25 years disco ball
Gotta
that you
have
see
a disco
on some
ball.
things. Right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, here's some more information from the announcement. Here we go. The first 4 collections are not time limited and are available indefinitely for you to collect at whatever pace works for you.
So that implies that they will be time limited.
Time limited, yeah.
Yes.
You can see the treasures you've collected in the mobile app profile section or on the website by clicking on treasures on your dashboard. And there are more treasure collections coming in April. For instance, here's one, navigational tools. Now, this collection celebrates the tools that explorers have used to navigate the world. The collection features 5 treasures ranging from an astrolabe to a map.
Cool.
And you can collect these treasures by finding and logging any traditional geocache with a difficulty rating of 2 or higher and a terrain of 1.5 or lower. So they're able to really tweak the qualifications. Another one is called Egg Hunt. And this collection highlights 8 different geocache types with 8 different treasures. Each treasure in this collection has a different criteria for the geocaches you have to find and log in order to collect the treasure. The treasure can be collected in any order. You can check out this list on the blog post to see the details of the geocache criteria. Now, Treasures is available to both premium and basic members, though some future collections may be premium only. And the first collections are open to all. All right. So let us know if you started collecting treasures and what do you think about this new part of the game.
It's really great to hear stories of geocachers working with organizations within their communities in positive ways that relate to geocaching. And we chatted with one such geocacher, Chet13, at our 900 show event in Mission Bay, and here's what he shared with Sunny.
Hey guys, one of the great things about an event is meeting geocachers, local geocachers, and so many of these creative, intelligent, and good-looking geocachers have things to share about the local community. And so today we are talking with
Chet.
All right, Chet. And from what I understand, you have some local events that are coming up, and so why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited, but the Encinitas, I'm working with the city of Encinitas to create an adventure lab for the art night on April 5th.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to highlight some of the works of art presented, and the purpose is to engage people and so that they learn about the art that they're seeing and that they can visit as many locations as possible.
All right. And when is this going live?
April 5th, it'll be going live I can't remember the exact time, but it should be like soon after the start of the event.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And there will be an event cache that will be going live. I'm working on setting it up right now, but more details will,
As you get closer.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then even after that event, this Adventure Lab will be available to anybody visiting San Diego if they wanted to check it out, right?
Yes. So we're gonna keep it up for a tiny bit, and then it will switch to a Welcome to Encinitas Adventure Lab, so that you can get them all at the City Hall, and it's just gonna talk about the history of Encinitas.
Oh, okay. And I got to ask you, Chet, what got you inspired to do this? I mean, there's so many things to talk about here in San Diego. Why this particular topic?
Well, I live in Encinitas, and I'm on the Encinitas Youth Commission.
Oh, okay.
So I was learning about all the art that we have in Encinitas, and I learned about this art night event coming up, and I thought that it would be an amazing opportunity to host a geocaching event and try to include geocaching in the community and have more people join geocaching and adventure labs. So.
Right, I was going to say, you're not only introducing artists to geocaching, but geocachers to art.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we want it to go both ways, and I hope that people that just are coming for art, they get to learn about adventure labs too.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for that. And if you happen to be nearby for the event or can check out the Adventure Lab, come out, and that's at Encinitas, California. All right. Thanks again, Chet.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Before we go on, I want to let you know that Chet, really cool guy, is a sophomore in high school, and he's already achieved his Eagle Scout badge in scouting. He loves geocaching, and he loves to make a difference in his community. In fact, he has some more plans in the works, and he shared those with me as well. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to announce that the Explore Bataquitos Lagoon cache series will be going live on May 10th, and it will highlight the features of Bataquitos Lagoon in Carlsbad, California, and there's going to be one at the Nature Center. There's going to be some adventure labs. It's just going to be really fun, and we hope to enrich the experience of the nature and the history of the area.
Okay, and so there are adventure labs, but is there a physical cache like that you're gonna put there as well?
Yeah, we're gonna have hopefully around 20 geocaches along with adventure labs.
Okay.
Obviously, it kind of depends on if we can find suitable locations, but that's the hope.
Okay. And something like this takes a lot of organization. Have you been working with some of the local authorities in order to get this going and published?
Yes, I have. I've been working with the Bataquitos Lagoon Foundation. I'm working with Calvin Ewan. He specifically, he's been really helpful. He's a geocacher himself.
Oh, okay.
His username is Eagle81, and he's a really cool guy. Been helping me kind of find locations, tell me about the history of the lagoon, and he's given me a couple tours so that I can scout out locations.
Perfect. And San Diego has so much diversity in different places. Why did you pick Bataquitos Lagoon in particular to hide caches?
Well, it was funny. I had my Eagle Scout Board of Review.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Ewan was one of my reviewers on the board, and I was telling him about how I love to geocache.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm actually interested in having a geocaching program for the Bataquitos Lagoon. And I was like, I'd love to work with you on that. And we talked afterwards. Actually, I did get my Eagle Scout rank, so yeah, it was pretty cool. Thank you.
That is a significant accomplishment. Wow.
And he and I have been working for a couple months now on the logistics, and we came to the date of May 10th, so yeah.
All right. And me and my family have visited Bataquitos Lagoon. It's a very rich area for environment, for flora and fauna, and you should go check it out. It's a lagoon that feeds inland, and it also feeds out into the ocean, right? And so it's got like sort of a marshy area, but a lot of creatures there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a salt marsh. Yeah. Beautiful trail system. There's
really well maintained.
Oh yeah, it's really nice, and they have a ton of different signs and stuff that give information of like the history of the land and how long people have been going there. It's really cool.
Very cool. So if you're anywhere near Carlsbad, check that out. And by after May, it'll be published, so you can go check out all the geocaches there. But if you're visiting San Diego, I'd highly recommend that. It's a nice little day trip to be able to check out a nature area like Bataquitos Lagoon. All right, Chet, thank you so much for chatting with us about that.
Thanks for hosting me.
All right, so we're working with Chet on a special cache to hide for the Bataquitos Lagoon, and we plan to attend the event that he's planning. And we hope this encourages you to look around your community and find ways to work together to promote geocaching and support local organizations. And if you've done something like this in your area of the world, we'd love to hear about it.
Geocaching is one of the lowest cost hobbies that we know. Once you've got your GPS or smartphone and a good pair of walking shoes, you're pretty much set. For those of you who fish or golf or travel or four-wheel, you know that geocaching in comparison is dirt cheap. Supporting our efforts to bring you quality geocaching content is dirt cheap too. For less than the cost of a fast food meal once a month, you can take pride knowing that you help make this show possible. We love what we do, but the only reason we've been able to continue producing the longest running podcast about geocaching is because of our PodCacher Club members. Yep, that's right. This podcast is entirely listener supported. Did you know that? Our club members feel that PodCacher adds value to their geocaching lifestyle, and it's important enough to pitch in a small amount each month to make sure that we can continue to be a geocaching resource you can count on and trust. If you enjoy this show and get value from it, won't you please step up and become a PodCacher Club member? Find out all the details and join the PodCacher Club at podcacher.com/club.
PodCacher listener feedback.
All right, next we have some feedback on the issue of reusing some dormant geocaching usernames. And first from Markins. And by the way, this is in reference to a topic that we brought up on a previous show. Someone said, hey, would it be possible to reuse geocaching names that are not being used at the time? And this is what Markins said. I feel strongly that dormant usernames should not be recycled, even if the user has not been active for many years. That username and associated profile is part of the history of any cache the user logged or placed. Even if those caches were archived, they can still be accessed and the history seen. Recycling usernames opens up a big can of worms that I think Geocaching HQ is right to leave closed. A point to illustrate. Several caching friends have died over the years, sadly, something too many of us have in common. I find comfort in seeing their profiles and associated caching history, even though it's obvious they will not be doing any further caching in the future. If their usernames were recycled, all that history would disappear. Thanks for the podcast, and keep on caching. And that once again came to us from listener Markins.
And just a note, I think the geocacher who originally wrote in with this idea was excluding usernames where the person had passed away.
Yeah.
But that might be difficult to determine.
Yeah.
And here's some more feedback from listener Woolrab.
All right. Said, I'm not a fan of reusing account names. My main reason is because I had a dormant account for a long time before I started using it again. I found my first geocache in June 2003 with some coworkers. I really enjoyed it and created my account and logged my find. I then borrowed the GPS from my coworker to try to find some more. I came up with a couple of DNFs and figured maybe this is not the hobby for me. So I gave the GPS back and did not think about geocaching for a long time. 3,031 days, in fact. Yes, over 8 years.
8 years, wow.
Then in 2011, my kids were playing in a park with some other kids, and one of the mothers was bringing the kids over to a pine tree. I headed over to see what they were looking for and found out that she was showing them a geocache in a tree. I saw that she was using her smartphone with the geocaching app to find the cache. Remembering my cache find from long ago, I realized I could try this out again on my smartphone, and I've been hooked ever since. 12,000 finds and going. Since I had that old account, I was able to log back in, and yes, I actually had the password, and I used the same account name, which I did not want to change. So that's my story around dormant accounts. Also, 3,031 days without a fine streak is not something I would encourage people to try and break. And that comes from listener Woolrab. All right.
That's great feedback. And it's nice to hear a story of someone who actually comes back to the game after so many years.
Yeah.
And it might happen more often than we think.
In this case, it sounded like, he had not been caching for a while. And what brought him back was, I can use a smartphone.
Right.
And that triggered it and made the entry point a lot easier than having to use a GPS and maybe not being successful the first time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, good story. Thanks. Another way that geocachers can impact their local communities by hosting a geocaching class. And we recently heard from Julieplay the piano with some great tips and suggestions for how you might do this based on her experience. And here is what she said.
In our church, we have monthly activities for singles. Last October, it was my turn to plan an event, and I decided to choose a Saturday class on geocaching. A cute flyer was created, and everyone was invited to also bring their friends and kids. We met in a large classroom and started with a 1-hour introductory class all about geocaching, and I provided breakfast, snacks, and juices.
Always a good idea.
Always a good to have food.
Yeah.
As people gathered, I had lots of visuals on display. I told the story about how I discovered geocaching. I brought my journals full of interesting souvenirs I'd found while geocaching. I went over navigation and how you find things by a longitude and latitude. I had sample cache containers of every shape and size. I showed them a travel bug, and I told the story of the many places it had been all around the world. I had a container full of swag, and on display were basic books such as Idiot's Guide to Geocaching and How to Puzzle Cache. And there was a handout which gave them basic information about the geocaching website and a basic outline of my presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good idea.
So I started with the beginning, all the way back to letterboxing and the history of geocaching. And I had copies for everybody of a screenshot I had taken of hundreds of the many geocaches in our nearby area. And I explained what the various icons meant.
Yeah, now, I've done this. In fact, sometimes when I meet somebody at work, they hadn't heard about it, I just pull out my phone and I show them the geocaches that are around where we happen to be, sitting. And they're like, no way. And something I often enjoy doing is okay, where do you live? And they tell me about a maybe little town or city in San Diego. And so I'll zoom in on there and then show them how many geocaches are around their house that they didn't. And I know where that park is. Oh yeah, I've hiked in that area.
It's really powerful to visualize that.
It is powerful for them to see it the first time because they don't. I think when people think about geocaching, they don't realize how, especially in San Diego, how densely populated, how many geocaches really
how extensive it is.
Yeah, for sure.
She goes on, I told them about GeoArt, earth caches, and events. I showed off my cache mobile, which was my Razor scooter parked in the back of the classroom.
Okay.
And I had a display of some of the many tools a geocacher might use. We talked about muggles, being stealthy, taking and leaving swag, leaving the land a little better than when you arrived. And we discussed how to leave a nice log telling about your experience. And on a handout that covered all of the above things, I also had a list of common terms and abbreviations that geocachers use.
That's helpful. Yeah, that's good to hear. Okay.
After about an hour, we were ready for the next part. I let every attendee pick out a cute little tweezer that came in a variety of colors. Then I gave them a hand-drawn map of the church where I hidden 9 different types of geocaches. They included an ammo box, a micro, a flat pack, hangers, hide-a-key magnet, film canister, lamppost cache, fake rock, round cyclone fence post cap, and a letterbox hybrid in Tupperware.
Okay. It's really helpful to see the variety containers because people don't understand how they can be different. Because when you first hear about what a geocache is, you're like, what? Of course, people think about Tupperware.
Or you get some idea in your head. What it is.
Yeah. But then when you start seeing the variety, I've seen people's faces light up when they they see a fake rock. Like, you can hide that? Yeah, that would be almost invisible. Or especially something like a micro or the flat ones. It's it really opens up their imagination to what a geocache can be.
Right.
Yeah.
She says the map I gave out had 10 little X's marked on it, showing the location of each cache to find. and I used green tape to mark an X on the sidewalk so they could tell that they were close.
Okay.
I told them there's no particular order and that there was 9 cache containers out there, but they wouldn't find a 10th one because sometimes you don't find them all. Then with great excitement, off they went in various groups.
I did something like this for the job when I worked at that place.
Right. It was like a team building thing, right?
It was a team building thing, and they knew that I was into geocaching, and I said, okay, I'll set up something for you. But in this case, the way we did it, we didn't do this is a clever way to do it, put the little X's on there and kind of give them the taste.
Right.
But what I did was I preloaded a bunch of Garmins, like we had like 6 yellows, and then we put in the coordinates to locations that we had actually put on the geocache. So I think I had like six or 7 geocaches, and then we actually had them use the GPSs to track them down. And they were official geocaches, but they did find them in the traditional way. So that's another way to do it. Takes a little more work, though.
She says, I cruised around on my scooter, giving helpful hints as needed. There were logs and trinkets inside each cache for them to sign and take. The one that stumped most of the participants was a round top cap on top of a support for a fence, even though it had been displayed inside.
I was going to say it. I heard her say that. Yeah.
Another amusing moment for me was to see them staring down a rectangular drain in the parking lot, looking for the one cache that was later claimed to be the missing one.
Okay.
About 45 minutes later, everyone came back to our original meeting room to share notes and to agree on which X was the one they didn't have a cache to find and was therefore a DNF. Now, at this point, a few people had to leave, but the rest of us carpooled about a mile away to visit a real geocache. I chose one of my caches that I had placed in a downtown plaza. I handed each person a paper copy of the cache page and a pencil. From the parking area, I gave everyone the coordinates to the starting spot so they could see how navigation worked. And then once there was a water feature on a pedestal featuring a round globe. And in order to get the final stage, each person had to count various objects to come up with the coordinates.
Yeah. That's a really good idea to give an example of a multi-cache, but for fairly short, easy one instead of one that would take them from place to place. But yeah, for them to understand the container's not always at the first spot. It's a good idea.
And then after a few corrections, we all headed toward the final, which was located within the city block. I showed everyone how to decipher the hint that was on the webpage, and soon everyone was signing the log. Everyone seemed fairly pleased that they had actually found a real geocache. Several participants decided they liked the game enough that they wanted to download the app on their smartphones right then and there.
Nice.
I then mentioned that the geocaching app also kept track of all of their finds, so they could easily keep track of how many caches they had found, and they all seemed fascinated by this new fact.
That's great.
A lot of people are interested in statistics, right?
Yeah. I want to see how many. Yeah, for sure.
More people had to take off, but the rest of us decided to go out to lunch at a nearby Chinese all-you-can-eat place. We talked about geocaching and got to know each other a little better. When we got back to the church to retrieve some of our cars, everyone helped to retrieve all the caches and pull up the green tape. What a day we had. It was a lot of preparation, but it was so fun to see the excitement in their eyes as maybe they had discovered their new hobby.
Nice.
And you can tell that there was a lot of work and planning that Julie put into this. But great ideas for planning out, an intro to geocaching.
Yeah.
That you could maybe have in your community.
Yeah. And hey, let us know. Have you or someone someone in your area put on a class like this to sort of evangelize geocaching? I think it's a great idea. And it gives them a little bit of taste in it. And then and one thing she didn't mention here was that local geocachers tend to form groups, community groups. I think she mentioned about CETOs and whatnot, but events and being able to get together.
Inviting them to events.
Yeah, it's almost like joining a new club, right? This is a great idea. And if you guys have any experience with classes and any ideas that you want to share, let us know, and we might be able to share it here on PodCacher. One thing we really look forward to finding in our mailbox every few months is the FTF Geocacher magazine. It really is a fantastic, full, glossy magazine jam-packed with geocaching goodness. There are articles, puzzle-solving practice, lots of photos, humor, milestones, and a lot more. Now, one of my favorite things are the great stories. They can be funny, meaningful, heartwarming, and inspirational. Just another reason to love the FTF Geocacher magazine. You should subscribe today. The FTF Geocacher magazine comes out every 2 months, and it's a must-read for every geocacher. You can check it out right now at ftfgeo.com. What are you waiting for?
Speaking of great stuff in the FTF Geocacher magazine, we have a fun story to share with you from the magazine. This was written by Christy, also known as Pathways, and it's called It's Alive.
It's alive. All right, here it goes. The Columbus Metro Parks Geo Trail is always a yearly highlight for myself and my husband, Pepper's Nitro. We enjoy visiting the area metro parks and finding the many themed geocaches that ultimately culminate in earning a prize geocoin. Each year after the trail launches, we focus our weekends on completing the series. One aspect of the trail we enjoy is the opportunity to rediscover some of our favorite features at the various parks. So when we arrived at Blendon Woods Metro Parks, we decided to check out the Nature Center first. Inside, we saw displays of the various wildlife that we might encounter in the park, unaware that we were about to find more than the cache out in the woods. We quickly made our way to Ground Zero, which was a large wooden platform at the edge of the woods. It looked like it could be used as a stage. A simple gadget cache style was attached to the platform. We made the necessary effort and quickly had the container in hand, or so we thought. Inside, we found we had the code word for the trail, but there was no log to sign. We were a bit puzzled by this, so as Pepper's Nitro was replacing the container, I set my bag down on the ground at the foot of the platform, and right next to a very suspicious pile of sticks. A sharp green plastic ammo can corner poking out from in between them confirmed that I'd found the final piece we needed to complete the find. I grabbed the handle and pulled it out from the geocamouflage concealing it. The wooden platform we were standing next to had a convenient row of seating around one side, so I plopped the cache down on top of it and leaned over to rummage in my bag for a pen. When I stood back up, I noticed something poking out from the handle. It was a smooth, rounded tube that looked like a broken rubber gasket. It was odd, so I pointed it out to Pepper's Nitro. I picked up the ammo can up to investigate. Suddenly, the round, smooth tube extended further from the handle. That's when I realized two things simultaneously. The unexpected object emerging from the handle was alive. And the alive thing was a snake. As I stood with my hand outstretched, a massive python unfurled itself from the interior of the handle in a cinematic slow motion. At least that's what it looked like to me. I had warned Pepper's Nitro that I'm irrationally afraid of snakes, but he had yet to experience me actually encountering one. For someone who loves and works with animals, you would think I'd be okay with snakes. You would be wrong. I'm okay with them until I have to touch one, or until one starts coming towards me, which was the scenario currently playing out. Now released from its cozy napping nook, the venomous viper raised itself up, bared its teeth, and prepared to strike. That's what it felt like to me anyway. As I was saying, this tiny garter snake slithered benignly in my general direction, and I briefly lost my mind. Was the snake actually dangerous? Only if you scream, run, and fall off the wooden platform you're standing on. Who does that? Oh, right, me. I landed flat out on the mulch and laid stunned for a second. My senses returned, and I quickly checked to see if Pepper's Nitro had noticed. Maybe I could pick myself up and act like nothing had happened. He was signing the logbook and staring at me over the top of it. We made eye contact, and I began laughing uncontrollably. I popped back up and joined him in signing the log, keeping a side eye on our new cache buddy, still slithering nearby. We replaced the cache and made our way back to the car. I had a few scrapes, some mulch in my hair, and an embarrassing new low to add to our collection of geocaching stories. I'm sure reliving that moment will be a new annual tradition for the time that we start a new Metro Parks Geo Trail. And by the way, there's a picture in the magazine that shows the actual garter snake that's coming out of the handle. And it's a cute little guy.
Yeah, that would startle me too. That would freak me out a little bit.
I know, but nothing like this the original description of massive python or venomous bared teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm sure that would startle a lot of people. That is just one example of the great stories that you can find in an FTF magazine. And you should order one now so you can check out the great stories yourself.
PodCacher, games and contests.
Here at PodCacher, we love to play games and contests that gives you guys opportunities to win Groovalicious swag.
And as you may know, we are running a new contest in keeping with the poetry theme on a recent show.
Yep.
We'd love for you to send in your favorite geocaching poem. And this won't be a judged contest. Just by sending in any kind of poem, you'll be entered into the drawing to win a prize.
Yep.
So get your creative juices flowing and send us your geocaching poems. We'll keep the contest open for a couple more weeks until April 4th and then announce a winner.
And that theme song means we are done with the geocaching goodness, at least for today's show. And it's now time for a quick Sean update.
Well, we mentioned our trip to SeaWorld, and we had a great time hanging out with each other. It's very different, though, going with an older teenager versus a little kid.
Yeah.
You know, like as we said, a lot of the things had changed. You know, we walked through the place that used to be the Sesame Street land, and both of us were like, oh, remember that used to be there and that used to be there, but it's very different now. And of course, none of those rides are appealing anymore to a teenager. He was interested in some of we did go on one of the roller coasters, although my stomach gets a little queasy. And then there's a couple super scary, crazy ones that he didn't want to ride. And then another one he wanted to ride was down, so that was kind of disappointing. And then there was a water ride, but it's a little bit too cold of a day to go on a water ride.
To get all wet,
and we went to some of the shows and saw a lot of the animal exhibits and stuff. But it's, you know, Sonny and I were just talking, it seems a lot bigger when your kid's smaller, you know, like a lot more to do, and it takes a lot more time to get around and stuff. I mean,
when it's a little kid, their eyes are wide open on everything, like, oh, starfish.
And characters. And
characters.
Yeah. But the first thing when you first go in, or you can, it's like a petting area where like you can touch some little animals, and there's a little fish that come up and like kind of nibble on the dry skin on your hands. You
showed me that. I remember those fish. I mean, it looks weird and creepy, but it isn't.
And it feels a little funky, you know, because you can tell they're just like swarming your hand and trying to, you know.
Yeah.
But both of us remembered that from years before.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you want to try it? He's like, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. We could put that picture in the show notes so they can go check that out. Yep, times are a-changing. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for being part of the community, coming back, listening to PodCacher. Do us a favor. Let other geocachers know so they too can join us and join in on the geocaching goodness we bring you guys each and every week. All right, guys, get out there and find those caches, but stay safe and keep on caching. Bye.
Well, that's it for the show today. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to visit our website at PodCacher.com. You'll find our show notes, useful links, and tons of resources. We always love to hear from you. Our email is podcacher@gmail.com. You can also call the PodCacher hotline at 760-300-3633. Find out all the ways you can contact us at podcacher.com/contact. Till next time, stay safe and keep on caching.